Hey, Brassfax here. Today I want to talk about general purpose versus do-it-all. Because the English language can suck an entire nut, that might actually sound precisely like the exact same thing. But I think the video title is going to give it away. I don't think so. I think a general purpose rifle is not a do-it-all rifle, and I think trying to make it a do-it-all rifle is one of the largest pitfalls to ruining your rifle that you can do. As you could probably tell by the scripting environment here, this is going to be very much off the cuff. Get it? Whatever. I'm ETA less than 48 hours from going to Mogu, Forgotten Weapons, night vision shoot, moons out, goons out. I don't really have enough time to go out shooting, nor does it really make sense with everything put away, but I wanted to make a video because that is my life now. So here we are. We're doing it off the cuff in the influencer Brassfax studio, which is actually just a different room with better lighting. So yeah, I think on that note, take this all with a giant grain of salt. It's basically like shop talk, or me kind of just talking to you podcast format about what I think makes sense in a rifle setup and what I think are honestly large pitfalls. Oh, slightly out of focus. Real quick, as the camera is imperfectly framed, I've been getting a lot of YouTube comments from what I presume are Europeans or people in California. When I'm talking about a rifle like this, right, night vision setup, suppressor, some magnification, the general purpose rifle, I'm not talking about home defense. You don't need this for home defense. I mean, you could, but probably a little overkill. I'm not talking about hunting either. Or if I am talking about hunting, it's not of the four-legged variety. I'm talking about prepared citizen stuff. You can think that's crazy and insane, but hey, it's my autism, I get to choose the flavor. So keep that in mind, right? This is about prepared citizen stuff for extraordinary scenarios. The whole general purpose, or GPR, is very much a chicken or egg situation. Chicken and egg, whatever. The name itself came from the military recce rifle, a non-TDP configuration that emerged in the mid to late GWAT that offered flexibility to the user in a world of M4A1s with ACOGs and Mark 18s with EOTechs, and literally nothing else. The recce rifle was functional both in a door-kicking scenario, street fighting, but also provide magnification, allowing for low-profile, medium range, or even in some cases, long-range shots, all in a single package. But because of the military's superposition of both simultaneously developing laser-based ABMs, while still fielding an HMG designed when dinosaurs walked the earth, the recce rifle emerged, it was already about 10 years out of date by civilian standards. This configuration had already been done 10 times over in the civilian side of things, especially on the competition side, where Razor HDEs 1-6Xs on free-floated guns were not just commonplace, they were the norm, hence, chicken and egg. But because we love to LARP, the word recce rifle actually became the predominant way to describe this concept. However, we are incredibly stupid, and once the honeymoon phase of rediscovering a basic rifle configuration wore off, it turned out a lot of people couldn't contend with the concept of having a rifle called a recce rifle that, as a civilian, wouldn't be used in a reconnaissance. So around the mid-2020s, give or take, GPR, or general purpose rifle, came in to supplant recce rifle as a colloquial way to describe this concept. Which I guess makes sense, right? If there's anything that tickles our autism more than cool military names, it's TLAs, baby. Thus, the GPR has really taken off in civilian circles, once again, to describe something that had existed for quite some time, but it really sort of helped to solidify the concept. Unlike the military, civilians lack advanced pre-mission planning, advanced ISR, and large teams that could cover each other's weaknesses if they specialized. While the name of the game in the military is METTC, specialization, METTC, and picking the right equipment for the right task, us filthy plebeians need to contend with the fact that avoiding the fight is the name of the game for us, and thus engagements that are forced upon us outside of a home defense scenario will be varied in nature, unpredictable, and often spontaneous. Thus, the flexible, general-purpose nature of the GPR is a perfect fit for the irregular type unit, which is what civilians are. Hey, new sponsor time. This video is sponsored by Modern Warriors, a firearm and accessory retailer actually local to me out of St. George. And by local, I mean they're still like 5 hours away. But hey, still in Utah. But because St. George has a total population of, who really knows? Unfortunately, there's no way to check. Probably like 4 people. You'll be more interested in their online retail website, with plenty of different options available to you. You want a gun? In a few simple clicks, it'll be sent to your FFL of choice, all the hassle and paperwork taken care of by modern warriors. You want accessories, optics, and swag. I mean, it's an online store. I'm sure you know how this works. And if you happen to be of the aforementioned 4 people that do live in St. George, be sure to check out their physical location. It's quite the store. On top of all that, I'll have a promo code down in the description that you can save a hilarious amount of money on if you buy, say, this Barrett Mark 22 Advanced Sniper Deployment Kit with suppressor and 3 caliber changes. Alright, on with the show. What a GPR truly is hard to define outright. It's more of a philosophy of setup than really any defined configuration. One key aspect stands out, however. While it is general purpose at the end of the day, it remains a fighting rifle tool designed around rifles fighting other rifles. So speed, ergonomic efficiency, and intuitive implementation is key. Thus, because most engagements are at fairly close range, let's say within about 100 yards, the user must have an optical system that can handle that as a priority. The general result is that most people agree that a GPR needs a good 1x sighting solution as a non-negotiable, but magnification is also key to allow that flexibility. Like with the competition rifle from which both the GPR and recce rifle draw their lineage, the vast majority of scenarios are going to be close and fast, with only a small percentage of targets requiring that actual magnification that the GPR is known for. But unlike the military, we don't have the options of just dropping an airstrike on it, we need the rifle to solve that problem. So like with competition, where you might only have a single long-range stage, or maybe only 2 to 3 long-range targets over the course of a 50-target match that utilizes the full effect of your magnification. Having that magnification is still king, as shitting the bed on these few targets could spell disaster for your placement. Furthermore, in the context of civilians, having the ability to target ID moments before engaging is invaluable. While it is vague and user-dependent, the GPR is thus a fighting rifle with a good 1x solution and as much auxiliary capability tacked on without compromising that primary function we just talked about. We can look at some popular specialized rifles to get an idea of what a GPR isn't. A specialized rifle is a scenario where we take the baseline and we are willing to lose our flexibility to get more design budget to excel at specific areas. The ever-popular SPR in 5.56 does exactly this by selecting items that specialize in longer-range performance. So, say a longer barrel, a match barrel, long-range oriented scopes that give up a 1x to have better performance at range, using match ammo. This rifle certainly can function as a literal fighting rifle, but it is distinctly cumbersome by comparison. The flip side is perhaps you want to build out a CQB or a night gun, further focusing in on that specific niche. Now, ironically, these actually do work very well at the main priority, sub 100 yards, due to the tendency of these to use red dot sights or something like an EOTech 3-0. But remember, they lose that flexibility option, especially if the situation develops that requires precision, so small targets at close range, or long-range targets, often due to, the lack of magnification or the lack of good magnification, and very often, caliber choice. While these rifles excel in certain areas, a key defining factor of these is that a lot of them kind of suffer without having a teammate with a more generalist or fighting rifle to cover the inherent weaknesses brought up by these. You don't want your SPR dude at the front of the stack. You don't want your 300 blackout dude covering you in a bound from mountainside to mountainside. Thus we get to the issue and the subject of video. A lot of people shoot in very, sterile environments and begin to kind of hyperfixate on certain aspects. They want to take specialized rifle capability and shove it into their general purpose rifle, which unfortunately loses the essence of what a GPR is. People are confusing general purpose with do it all. Technology has gotten to the point where on paper, it seems like you can have your cake and eat it too. But I'd argue in practice, that's not the case, not yet at least. The biggest offender of this seems to be range performance. Unfortunately, I see a lot of people have their GPR, and then they see the new greatest LPVO, and they chase features like 10x magnification and long-range oriented reticles. And then, with time, they come to despise the LPVO without realizing they may have just bought the wrong LPVO for the given task. Some 1 to 8x LPVOs and basically all 1 to 10x LPVOs are notorious for being really poor GPR options. We sometimes see this laser focus extended to the barrel as well, where we see rifles go from a carbine length barrel to an 18 or 20 inch barrel for a number of reasons. And then the user finds out they can't print sub 1 MOA groups at 100 yards, so out goes the chrome lined or CHF barrel and in comes the stainless match barrel. If they're using night vision, they're going to kind of get upset at their rail because the internet told them so, and they're going to swap out their nice little lightweight rail for a quad rail or an expensive built-up M-Lock rail like, say, the Geisleys. At the end of the day, they mash all of this together, and yes, in theory, we still have a general-purpose rifle, a rifle that can handle a wide range of scenarios. It has 1x, magnification, a free-float rail, and God forbid, maybe even a bipod. So yes, in theory, this is a GPR, but in reality, I think you guys have seen these setups before. It's a ruined rifle. You've ended up with something that can do it all, yes, but the soft factors, the weight, the maneuverability, the ability to mount a suppressor without turning it into a spear, all of this is completely ruined because you laser focused on trying to buy your way out of design pitfalls. This kind of reminds me of the hop theory. One of the main reasons why people are recently loving retro rifles is that they force the user to be conservative and limited with their rifle accessories because the rifle can't mount anything. And then they thus end up with a rifle that is very focused in its design implementation, while still being very usable, maneuverable, and light. Now, pumping the brakes real quick, none of what I mentioned in isolation, MPVOs, bipods, heavy rails, you name it, are bad. In fact, a lot of these are good, and I recommend a shitload of these. The issue comes when you try to have it all, where you forsake being a generalist and you want to specialize in everything. If you really care about your laser being on a rock-solid rail, no problem, dude, I get it. But remember, that uses some of our design budget on our rifle. You want to run an 18-inch barrel on your GPR, as our Lord and Savior Nut and Fancy intended? Sure, I did that for a long time. But remember, it votes out the ability to have a heavier bull-type barrel, and it almost certainly precludes the ability to use a full-size suppressor on your rifle. You might need the downscales to a K-size can, or even no can whatsoever, depending on how heavy your setup is. Running night vision and a suppressor? Well, like me, you may find that that isn't really doable on longer 16, 18-inch guns, and you're going to need to sacrifice barrel length to get that and to keep your overall weight down. I can't give you a perfect policy prescription here. What I'm trying to get at with this video is the philosophy aspect. Everything is a trade-off, and you can't actually buy your way out of certain design pitfalls of the system. So that's really all I'm getting at here. Stop viewing these enablers in isolation. Only because they have the best features doesn't mean it's the best fit for you. Finally, remember, a GPR as defined in this video is a very generic term. Your AO has certain priorities, your environment has certain average engagement ranges, certain factors to consider. Maybe you have a lot of dense underbrush and the requirement for magnification gets scaled way back such that a magnifier begins to make more sense. Or you exist in an environment where the LPVO and a short-barreled rifle system begin to heavily struggle, and you may find that you need good magnification as a rule. Let's tie this off with something from, I think, the tank communities. Hard versus soft factors. Hard factors are what you can actually quantifiably change on your rifle. A longer barrel gives you more velocity, a larger suppressor gives you better signature reduction than a short one, and a shift from a 1 to 6x LPVO to a 1 to 10x LPVO gives you 4x more magnification. For all quantifiables, these are hard factors. But at the end of the day, remember, the soft factors, how your rifle actually handles, the weight, the balance, having ergonomic and intuitive setups, most are just as important to your experience and more importantly your effectiveness, your accuracy and your hit rate and your speed as the hard factors. And most, if not all, hard factors will negatively inhibit the soft factors for handling of your rifle. So when you go out and buy these different things, yes, go after those hard factors. We need some of them after all. But don't forget about the soft factor aspect of your setup at the end of the day, and that it is a large part of your rifle's performance, and you can't just always buy your way into certain capabilities. Alright. That's about it. This is going to be fun to edit, because it is all over the place. Remember, this is just me talking to you about what I found to be most effective. I don't really know what the hell I'm talking about, so take it all with a giant grain of salt. Regardless, thanks for watching. Here's your Nova footage for putting up with just all of that.
Grandma Nova with a puppy.
We got just a huge amount of turrets here. Lots of fun with turrets.
You're so good. You're so good.
Well, it was a zeroing day. What do you expect?